Tilea's Troubles, Part 67. Mangled Facts. The End of Spring, 2403.
They didn't slurp it all, then,
said Frockit, peering into the topless barrel whilst clutching his vicious billhook as a support. His spiked helm threatened to topple in, but he pulled back just before it did.
No, they didn't,
said Pushin.
Didn't even touch these.
He nodded towards the two on the ground, and the one still on the wagon.
Too busy draining them big uns we got from the last place. But they'll get around to these soon enough, so best not get any ideas.
Whichever ogre had drunk from the open barrel the previous night hadn't troubled himself to broach it in the normal manner, instead smashing the head in to leave wooden splinters floating on the unfinished ale inside. Frockit dipped a finger in, then sucked the sticky beer off, making that particular digit fractionally less grimy than the rest.
Tasty,
he announced.
You know, I reckon they won't want this one, not now it's already opened. And if we put it on the cart, it'll just slosh and spill all over the place.
Corny Clipper nodded, an action made all the more noticeable by his heavy nose and flapping ears.
You got a point there, Frockit. Better to drink it up ourselves than let it go to waste.
Puddles in our bellies instead of puddles on the road,
said his friend Furnip from beneath the huge ogre's club he carried on his bent back. Silence descended as they all pondered the proposition. They knew not to rush into any act of thievery, no matter how petty, without proper consideration. Carelessly light-fingered gobs did not tend to last long in the company of ogres. It was Frockit who eventually broke the silence.
No one's lucky,
he said.
They're already on the move, leaving us gobs to catch up as best we can. They've taken the big barrels. These little uns are naught but tipply sips to them.
Aye,
said Furnip.
Nippers tipples.
We deserves our share,
said Corny Clipper.
We done Mangle a good service, and Razg a good service and all. The boss has had a right feasty reward last night. It's only fair we have a drop or two too.
Aye,
said Furnip, his red eyes fixed in their peculiarly staring manner, but his voice getting louder.
A drop or two too.
I wish they hadn't gobbled up all the oxen, though,
said Corny Clipper.
Lugging this lump of a wagon ain't going to be easy.
'Twon't be as bad if we've a little ale inside us,
said Frockit.
Reckon so,
agreed Pushin.
But we'll drink after we've loaded up the rest. That way the bosses will be even further ahead, and a lot less likely to ogle us at it. Let's not rush to load up neither. Best wait a little while, just to be extra sure.
As well as his memorably bulbous chin, which had been punched so often, whether deliberately or not, that he had long since lost all his front teeth, Pushin had always been known for his cunning. All those present were happy to take his advice, so they all fell silent and stared at the barrel. Some of them had belonged to Mangler's band, some to Razga's army. But now Razga ruled everyone, and although most of the ogres still marched in their old companies under their old banners, the gobs had become all mixed up together. The ogres could not care less whether their goblinoid servants formed companies, or even if they took part in the battles. The gobs, however, had learned the hard way that they needed strength in numbers if they were to avoid their master's full cruelties. Not that they ever put up any sort of argument or fighting resistance, rather that they could lose themselves in the crowd, making it impossible for the ogres to work out which of them was to blame for what. And in crowds they could usually rely on some other gob to distract an angry ogre whenever they became the focus of attention, hoping their master's interest would wane sufficiently and that they would go off and do something else. It usually did. Frockit, in an attempt to make the waiting a little more bearable, broke the silence.
"D'you see Butcher Slabdull loading it up last night?"
he said.
"You'd think it was him who beat Krav in the duel, not Razga."
Maybe he did,
said Pushin.
What do you mean?
Scoffed Corny Clipper.
Razga near cleaved Krav's head clean off his shoulders. Just a flappy bit of flesh left to hold it on. I was right up at the front, and I saw it plain as plain. Slabdull just stood and watched, like me and the rest.
Maybe Slabdull put a curse on Krav,
suggested Pushin.
Nah, said Corny Clipper. I've seen him conjurating, and it's a right old song and dance, I tell you. Cutting up his own flesh and all. There was none of that last night. He just watched, with a big grin on his face.
Pah!
snorted Pushin.
Of course he was grinning. He wanted Razga to win, and he knew that's exactly what Razga was going to do.
Frockit shook his head.
Not so sure about that. Crav had a chance. Good half of Mangler's boys thought he could do it.
But did he have a chance, eh? Did he really?
Asked Pushin.
Maybe Slabdol put a curse on him before the fight. Maybe he slipped some foul nastiness into his meat or drink.
Magic ingredients and wicked whatnots,
suggested Fernip, looking even more wide-eyed than usual.
You reckon?
Said Corny Clipper, his brow furrowed.
Think about it,
demanded Pushin.
He got given a big chunky share of the army's loot after the duel. What was that for?
To stop him complaining like Crav did,
said Frockit.
No, it was a reward.
It was a reward,
said Myrtle, who had until now held his tongue.
But not for cursing Crav, and not for poisoning him neither. Whether he did one or both them things.
What was it for, then?
Pushin inquired. He knew Myrtle of old, and had long since realised that Myrtle had a grip on the ways of their masters that most gobs failed, often fatally, to attain.
Think about it,
Myrtle explained.
Crav was angry, 'cause when Mangler died, Razga made Slabdol his second, not him.
Was a bit funny, that,
agreed Pushin.
Not funny to Crav. He was next in line to Mangler, so he should have become second when Mangler died.
We know,
said Frockit in exasperation.
That's what the fight was about.
Aye, the fight, said Myrtle, but you've got things back to front in your addled head. The fight was about Butcher Slabdol being given command instead of Crav. The reward was already given.
No, it wasn't,
argued Pushin.
Butcher Slabdol got his loot after Crav died.
The loot, aye, but he got command before the fight. That was the reward. The loot was just some crackling fat to make the reward tastier.
You're saying Slabdol was rewarded for somewhat else?
I am saying that, 'cause I knows it's true. After the battle on the road, Mangler was mangled bad. But I've seen ogres live through a lot worse than that. I've seen gobs get better from worse than that.
So?
It was Butcher Slabdol tended his wounds, see?
Pushin scratched at his chin.
He wouldn't get a reward for being bad at healing. Makes no sense.
Myrtle simply looked at him and waited.
Hang on,
said Pushin as an idea squeezed its way into his thoughts.
You're saying he got a reward for making sure Mangler died?
Myrtle grinned, revealing his two longest teeth, both on the left.
Snitch here saw what happened,
he said as he turned to look at the smallest gob present.
Didn't you, Snitch? No ogres spot you, Snitch, do they? You're too small, ain't you? But there's bulging eyes in that little head of yours, ain't there? Tell him, Snitch. Tell him what you told me.
Everyone looked at Snitch. Some were surprised to see him, having altogether failed to notice him until that moment.
Old Mangler lay there sick and sore, big black bruises, skin all tore. But the butcher's needle was a knife, and he stuck it in to end a life.
He'd always had a sing-song way of talking.
Sick, sore, skin all tore,
began Fernip.
Needly, knifey.
Oh, stop your gabbling, Fernip,
ordered Pushin, then fixed his eyes on Myrtle.
You're saying Slabdol killed Mangler?
If Mangler had 100 cuts after the battle,
pronounced Myrtle most somberly,
he had 101 after Slabdol's attentions.
Silence fell, as they all thought about what they had learned, until Pushin piped up.
Makes no difference to us, though, does it?
He said.
Don't matter to us who's boss. We still has to do what we're told and be snickety quick about it.
You're not wrong,
said Frockit.
Best drink up, then, and get a move on loading the rest.
He swung his billhook over to stick the steel head into the ground, then thrust both his hands into the ale to lift out a big, dribbly scoop.